Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Enough! You are all of you beneath me.
Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict. Conflict breeds catastrophe.
Who in the hell do you think you are?
We're not savages.
I take power from the undeserving. It's kind of my thing.
All right, Noel, we're back, and this is another episode of Dark Side of the Moon. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host, Noel John Toohey. Let's get to it.
And we're back.
All right, Noel, what do you think? We came back this time, another Disney Plus outing for the MCU in the shape of the Tom Hiddleston-led Loki, the time-traveling extravaganza of the decade.
Wow, I mean, I thought WandaVision was so kind of highbrow in its kind of weird execution, and it definitely wasn't like any other show. And then they came out with Loki and kind of, they did it again, those sons of bitches. I enjoyed the show, I have to say. It took me a few episodes to get into it, and obviously it's been 6 episodes, it wasn't an incredibly long run, but when I was into it, I was really, really into it. Maybe confused at times, but I really enjoyed it. What about you?
Yeah, no, I loved it. I love time travel and stuff, but like, I even watch a lot of Legends of Tomorrow, and they talk a lot about acronyms and stuff like this, like variants and all that in their world. So it's kind of like something I've heard before. So I'm kind of down with the time traveling stuff, like the
Down with the logo,
yeah,
the lingo,
the lingo, yeah. But I think Marvel kind of showed in 6 episodes what DC and CW couldn't do with Legends of Tomorrow. Like in the 6 episodes, they show the scope of time traveling and the breadth and width of their universe in a way that the Legends of Tomorrow have never capitalized on in like 6 seasons or something. You know what I mean? Like,
agreed. Yeah. Well, I think with 25 million episode and an awful lot of really, really big names kind of behind the production, I don't think that hurt them. But it was a very high concept, and it would have been very easy to fail.
I don't know. I think people are like, time travel's not new. Like, you know, it's
God no.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, so it goes back as far as that dude that wrote The Time Machine. Who was that guy?
Oh,
H.G. Wells.
I'm just going to say you're right. It was funny. It only came up in something I was reading. But yeah, no, of course, and even just the idea of it, of course, what you would be able to see, or what you would be able to forewarn. Yeah, of course. Even just the concept of it has been around forever. But there's always sort of different rules then, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think one thing remains true, like that you participate in one in an earlier part of the timeline that you don't belong to, that will have severe ramifications.
Yeah, each and every action you take.
And that's where we come to the kind of the branching of the sacred timeline, is that, like they say, the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, are the kind of the backbone of this series, whereas pretty much they apprehend Loki at the start, which goes back to, he disappears pretty much. They're kind of like, the Kevin Feige came out and said that this show is based in between the period of time between Endgame and WandaVision.
Yeah.
That's the period of time it's based in between, and you know, so it kind of picks up them. They kind of come into it pretty much straight away at the start of the first episode, and the TVA kind of run as the backbone for the whole thing, like, you know what I mean? So like, and then just like what did you make of the introduction of the TVA? And then remember you said to me before we started on air about the Infinity Stones being powerless there and all this.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I mean, they kind of showed Loki to be a gigantic bitch boy.
Yeah.
And he was the guy who would, from his perspective, just tore New York apart. And it took a Hulk and a Captain America and Iron Man, etc., to take him down, and it was touch and go and all that kind of. But then he was nothing compared. And I love the fact that it wasn't like there were nothing compared to this like Galactus type character. There were nothing compared to this pure bureaucracy that exists outside of everything he knows. Yeah. And like I said, when they showed the Infinity Stones, they're just kind of laying around. Yeah, you know, like we use them. Like some people use them as paperweights.
Do you think it's a little bit old hack at this stage that we have like, this ultimate power of being controlled by just bureaucrats, which is obviously like the way the world
obviously,
you know?
It's not exactly a subtle metaphor.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, if you think about it.
Yeah, even have something similar in Legends of Tomorrow. I can't even remember the name. There's something bureau or something.
Yeah. There's actually a few things that have that, all right, like an organization exists, like the Men in Black for kind of time Time Crimes or whatever. Remember Time Cop even? God, it's been around forever.
Yeah, it's starring John Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. But I know, I was watching this and I remember just thinking, it would be really, really great if somebody could tell me what the fuck this show is about.
Time Bureau.
Yeah, you know, it was Time Bureau, it was variance, and it was, you know,
the Time Bureau.
Pruning and...
No, in Legends of Tomorrow, they have the Time Police and the Time Bureau. Way to think over that one, DC.
Yeah. Way to break your back.
Yeah. But so like there's a massive scope to this show. Like,
there's a massive scope to it. It's hard to wrap your head around sometimes, and I think they did a fairly good job with the energy because sometimes it was so slapstick.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the episode, something quite significant or something with ramifications can happen.
Typical of Marvel stuff.
Typical of Marvel, but it doesn't matter how many times they do it right. You always have to be impressed because it is. Yeah. You see it done wrong so many times.
Yeah.
I mean, I always go back to Transformers. I always thought that was the best example I've ever seen of absolutely no consistent energy at all. Yeah. It was so stupid and slapstick, and I think it was the second one or something that they kill Optimus Prime for like probably one of the few times it happens, and all of a sudden was supposed to be this like, no, really Dowers kind of. I didn't give a fuck.
Michael Bay can't do it.
No, I can't. But I didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Because they had this. Remember, there was two kind of races, to be honest. Transformers, you could turn into an ice cream truck together. It was really, really really on the nose, really bad stuff. But I remember just thinking, yeah, they were gutting Optimus Prime, and I'm an 80s kid, so that should have had gravitas, excuse me, and it didn't. But in this one, I felt like, I don't know, I felt like I was intrigued enough, and it was paced well enough, and there was enough kind of down to earth characters to ground the not so down to earth characters that when it changed, when the energy shifted, like I was kind of there with them. They never lost me. Yeah. Now the storyline might have got away from me, but that's my own limitations.
But so what did you think of the introduction of like Owen Wilson's Morbius, and then we have sorry, I want to get her name right. We have Gugu Mbatha Raw.
Apologies if we butchered that. I think you might have got it right as well. It's what I would call it. She was excellent as well.
She played Ravonna Renslayer. But she's kind of like the
that's just too. She's just a woman with a cool name who played a woman with a cool name.
Yeah. You know? So what did you make of the introduction of those characters? And you had Hunter 155.
I already knew, like, right from the offset that when I was introduced to Ravonna, that there was going to be, she was going to be the cause.
Yeah.
Believe in the cause.
Yeah.
We do this for a reason.
The mission man.
Yeah, because she even does say at one point, like, it has to mean something, you know? Yeah. And there's always that kind of character where they're not necessarily completely bad, but they're definitely enamored in the ideology. Yeah. And she kind of gave you that earlier. But like, to be fair, that's what the script told her to do. I'm not like saying that she did a bad job. She's a good actress, yeah. But actor, yeah. Actor. Sorry, that's something I'm going to keep just getting wrong for a while. But I'll gravitate back to it. I'll get it right. But anyway, I liked it. I liked it. There was a kind of a scene earlier on before he's put in front of her, and she's kind of a judge, where there's a guy in the queue and he's giving the guard shit, and the guard. This is the first time you see a pruning.
Yeah.
And the guy just like, and he just has this little like,
ticket.
Like as in like just a turn you to nothing stick. Yeah. You know? And you know, all of a sudden Loki's like, yeah, I'm a gigantic bitch.
Yeah.
Like there's no, because at this point he'd already seen that if he tries to attack, that they can reverse his time.
Yeah.
So he could set you back 3 seconds. Yeah, they set you back 3 seconds in your own time or whatever, 2 seconds even. But all you know is you think you're trying to attack and then you're not.
Yeah.
So the show that he's
the whole first episode is about showing how insignificant he really is.
Hugely insignificant. But how insignificant everything he thought he knew is.
Yeah.
Again, these very boring kind of
choices aren't my own. Everything's preordained.
Everything's preordained, and there is the sacred timeline. Yeah. And like Owen Wilson, of course, is a very good role for him. I think as Morbius, because he was kind of grounded. He was a little bit more flexible. You got that vibe earlier, you know.
He was the kind of like Tom Hiddleston's the dry man, and he was kind of the
comic. He was the one like, I can get this done, but you have to give me some slack to work this way and work that way because it's not.
And play by my own rules.
Yeah. But again, he wasn't like, you know, he wasn't the good by book. You have to do things by the book. By book. So I thought it was layered quite well in the first episode. Yeah. Because for such a difficult world to build, I find like I got a vibe of it very quickly.
Yeah, they got into it very quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah. And all of a sudden, but again, like you were saying, that how insignificant they made somebody like Loki, who was an Asgardian god.
Yeah.
was just brilliant.
Yeah, it's like everything you spent the last decade doing is pointless.
But all of it, Endgame, everything, like, so what?
Yeah, exactly.
So what? Like, they're literally looking at the universe on one screen.
Yeah.
And one kind of 60s, 80s kind of.
Yeah, what you make of the technology in the house kind of weird.
I like when they do that. I liked in The Mandalorian that they kind of were very honest. Honest isn't the right word. True to the original
Star Wars,
because everything had kind of, it was buttons and color, like blips here and stuff like that. And when you were lining up the laser, it was just like a very basic ship.
Because like if you're based in a certain part of the timeline, you can't advance the technology too quickly.
Because I rewatched Alien a couple of years ago, and it's a late 70s film, and you could see like the technology. Of course, like it's just not how things look.
Yeah, and the way,
but it was a perfectly fine.
Yeah, in Prometheus they probably went too high tech considering.
And then they went too far the other way, And so no, I liked it. I liked that they decided that everything was kind of what it needed to be, no more, no less. And that's what kind of offices can be sometimes. Working in an office, you're not given any more than you need, but you're also not given any less. Yeah, this is what you need to function.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're not supposed to overachieve ever.
Yeah, you don't have a 10-foot long desk, but you have a 4-foot long desk. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Fancy.
You don't get a 3-hour break, but you get an hour break. So they had that kind of set up quite well, and it was also obviously it's extremely high tech. It controlled the universe. So I suppose I don't really know what way to put it. But the little what did you call what was the little clock?
Oh, Miss Time or some shit.
Was it something like that?
Bullshit like that, played by Tara Strong, and well-known voice actress, actor.
Yeah, she was cool again. She
Miss Minutes, actually, wasn't it?
Miss Minutes. That's a very cool name.
Miss Minutes, Tara Strong.
But yeah, I thought it was world. You knew that the second episode was going to kind of the meat and bones were there, and it was ready to kind of take off. But I have to say, I just liked everybody. I thought was well cast, and you're just kind of sitting there going, these fuckers can't do anything wrong right now. Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, you're going to look at something
for the last decade.
Yeah, for the last decade. But like you're looking at going, people are going to have favorites, and people are going to say, I didn't particularly like. How
Thor Dark World, whatever.
Yeah, whatever, or even the new
Black Widow.
Yeah. But at the same time, look at the scope of what they've done. If you aren't in awe of it, you're not paying attention.
The problem with the Black Widow movie is it feels like it's about 7 years too late.
Like
because it's 7 years too late. Yeah. Was that your first clue?
Yeah, it's because like we mentioned before, when you have a world-class actor like Scarlett Johansson, you put her to work. You don't just have her as a secondary role constantly.
And obviously, there's world-class actors that that don't have the clout, because that's also a different thing. Like,
you're telling me Captain Marvel deserves a solo movie?
Oh no! What I mean is that, like,
no, I'm not saying. I'm saying in terms of Marvel. I'm like, as if I'm phrasing the question towards Marvel. Do you think, as in me asking Marvel, that Captain Marvel deserves a solo movie before Black Widow?
Not in a million years.
You know what I mean? And she was already like there for 4 or 5, maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe more.
She was in Iron Man 2.
So 2010 was it? So no, it'd be 2009, because the Avengers came out 2011, and then you had Thor and Captain America.
Well, it's not big enough thing to argue over.
Because Iron Man 2008, the first one. And Incredible Hulk came out the following year.
No, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. I think. But anyway, she was there before. We're not splitting hairs on that one. But also, I kind of, like I told you, my favorite one, and very few people agree with me, but that's fine. I liked Captain America 2: Winter Soldier.
That's a world-class film.
It's a world-class film, but I always thought that was kind of like my Marvel's Die Hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it didn't have... I've said this on the podcast before, that I don't need, like, a guy who can punch a planet in half versus a guy that can harness the power of the sun or some shit. I don't care. I like the kind of grounded bullets flying kind of...
Batman Superman argument.
Yeah. I just like the bullets flying kind of thing, and I thought that was just an excellent action film. And I thought, like, again, something like Black Widow could lend itself to that. Something like Loki went so highbrow.
Yeah.
That I thought, wow, this could implode on top of its own weight. But again, it just didn't.
But this is what Marvel does so well. You have those ground stories, and then you have...
If you were to give it a word, like if I was to give it a word, I would say pacing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just how they've released everything, and how they... Inside of that, how they pace it is just excellent.
Like, this year alone, they've released WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, and now they've released... Loki and Black Widow.
Black Widow was a movie.
Yeah,
but at the same time, and what if is just around the corner.
And you're going to have Shang-Chi coming soon.
Shang-Chi's just around the corner.
You know what I mean? So you have WandaVision, which is just like a supernatural TV series that's based in the genre of sitcoms. Then you have Falcon Winter Soldier, which is more your espionage type spy movie. And then you have Loki, which is like time traveling and multiversal madness. And you have Black Widow, which is like a spy movie again. Like, you know what I mean?
This thing introduced bureaucrats that aren't afraid of Thanos.
Yeah,
you know what I
it's
mean. I
crazy.
just thought that was fucking cool.
Yeah, because he just exists in this one little timeline, whereas they know all these, like every little timeline ever, every possibility. If you know every possibility, the one possibility you don't even worry about because it's just one of many. You know what I mean?
And they essentially had these, what you could call them as grenades that would just wipe out an entire timeline.
Yeah,
and they just carry them in their
time
pockets.
bombs or something.
Yeah. Well, they would just say reset
charges.
Reset charges. Yeah. So, what the first episode leads us into the second episode. I know that. I remember that quite well.
Fucking hell, excellent commentary there. No.
Yeah. No. Thanks. Yeah. But
so one, and then there was a two.
Actually,
one
what
and
I like,
two. One and two.
They had to address the fact that Loki was a genocidal maniac.
Yeah, what do you think about the whole bent that Marvel are on right now that they want to make Loki? The whole first phase, they built Loki up as the big bad, to use the Buffy terminology, right?
Yeah.
And now, ever since then, they've because obviously Tom Hiddleston's such a fine actor, he's really
charismatic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That ever since then, they've been on this whole mission to like one big long redemption arc for Loki since
you won't believe
Thor: Dark World, pretty much.
But what they did was kind of clever because they had Owen Wilson in a very kind of dry way ask him if he enjoys hurting people.
Yeah.
They kind of he manages to leave him with the question.
Yeah.
And every time he thinks I'm Loki, of great purpose and stuff like that. Like so whatnot.
Glorious purpose.
Yeah. He can reset him. He can leave him in the room to wallow. He can do anything he wants. And but then he kind of gives the and this is what we've said about this before. What Loki did was genocidal, literally genocidal.
He killed 80 people in 4 days or something, 2 days or something.
Yeah, and then he took out New York, you know what I mean. But also.
Well, the Chitauri took it in New York.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Led by Loki.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm equivocating for him. I don't know.
I don't know why. And it's just Hitler going, actually, you will find out was the Nazis.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well, it wasn't all Germans.
Yeah. No, but they obviously, when you don't see that, we were talking about this when a meteor hits, again, New York is always New York, and you know that it's like huge scale destruction, but you don't see the scared child. Yeah. That gets, because that does something to you.
Yeah.
That storytelling narrative. You don't see, even a dog, it's massively powerful, but when it's just like looking at it from space and it's just an explosion, it does nothing
it's
to
like
you.
Independence
You can redeem a character like that, but if he tortured and killed a very innocent person
or if he killed Iron Man just there or something.
Yeah, absolutely. There'd be no redeeming him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they did kind of say, look, we can't just whitewash him as in shit happens. Let's try and be better tomorrow.
Yeah.
They did kind of leave him to ruminate on it, and you found out that he definitely didn't take any joy in it.
Yeah, he just did it because he felt isolated and he felt lied to. Because pretty much the whole idea behind Thor Part 1 was he finds out that he's actually a frost giant, that he's Loki Laufey's son, not Loki Odin's son.
Odin killed his dad and spared him and raised him as his own.
No, Laufey's the villain in Thor Part 1.
Laufey's the villain.
He beat him in combat and took his son as a way of, back in the day, pretty much if I beat you in combat, just say, I would take your son as a hostage to prevent you from attacking me again because of that leverage.
It was also a kind of thing where
it's like a dominance.
It was also a thing back in what would be modern day Turkey, where they would functioning armies would swap sons.
Yeah, Vlad the Impaler's story.
Yeah, Vlad the Impaler's story was quite similar to that, and they would take each other's sons and raise them as their own. But just that would be almost a way of combining, kind of like the way you marry off. It would be a kind of a variant of that.
Yeah.
How do we get there?
It's like exchange hostages. That's what they used to always say. But no,
I think they did a decent job, and don't forget that again. It's so fictional, and it's so obviously highbrow fictional that they lend you, the watcher, and this second season is a guaranteed. No, we forgive him.
Yeah, no, I think what we're because you were how do we get there? It's like when you look at pretty much his arc is he was lied to since he was a child. He's lied about his heritage. Odin told him he had this place in the world. It was all he felt completely betrayed because he felt robbed of his identity. And that's where his hatred came from. We're supposed to identify with his, his fucking, the reasons for his anger or the reasons for his actions. And that's why if you have a good villain, you should be able to identify.
Flesh them out.
Look at Killmonger. Everybody looks at Killmonger well, he makes a lot of sense.
And the only villains I don't like that aren't fleshed out are the ones who are so obviously, like a Carnage.
Yeah.
Because that's the point. And they don't pretend to be anything else.
Like a Joker.
Joker's another fantastic one. But yeah,
he's chaos for chaos' sake.
Yeah, but the thing is, Loki obviously has a curiosity about his place in the universe, in the world, and now the universe, or the worlds, and now the universe. So it lended himself quite easily to kind of teaming up with Owen Wilson to find like this, like what we're after is another Loki.
What do you think of Owen Wilson taking that kid's candy right before he kills him, pretty much?
Yeah, I don't like
lousy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. See the kid's like, he's like, go outside, and the kid's like, dude, you fucking took my candy. Like, you can see in his eyes, he feels so betrayed.
Yeah,
I think that kid will come back as another Loki.
Oh, I won't.
In Tour 17,
fucking surprised.
It's gonna be called Kablooey.
Yeah, like I mean, you're just everything you're seeing, and this is what I remember saying this to my partner years ago, and she kind of like she says it a lot back to me as well. And she, I'd be like somebody would bump into a table when they're like searching for their keys, and you go, that's relevant. That table's something's after falling behind it. Nothing like there's nothing lends itself to anything that isn't completely on purpose. And Marvel have taken that to the 10 power. Nobody has interacted with anybody in some way that's very flippant.
Yeah,
everything is about something. So yeah, no, even that. But you could tell that Owen Wilson didn't. It kind of showed that he didn't love the job.
Yeah,
like he felt it was necessary. It was his duty, but he didn't take any kind of pleasure.
Yeah, and he had this strange longing for another life or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what did you think of the big introduction? Like, because you go in like, I don't want to do it too much of a play-by-play episode-wise, but it's kind
don't be afraid to go macro if you're trying to make a point.
It's kind of unavoidable, but like in episode 2, we get the introduction of Sylvie that we find out. So pretty much, right, episode 2, the main crux of it is, where is Sylvie hiding? Where's this other Loki hiding? Before we find out it's Sylvie, and pretty much, right, Loki has to go through all of the fucking documents and shit. Finds out she's hiding in Apocalypses, which is a fucking genius part.
Which is a genius move because he takes him back to Pompeii.
Yeah, what do you think of that scene?
That was brilliant. I'm kind of lousy, you know what I mean? But also the point was, at the moment that he arrived, is so close to disaster.
Yeah.
That essentially nothing he does, even if it does change the timelines,
there'll never be a branch.
There'll never be a branch because it wasn't just like, I go into a guy's house and he's about to be murdered, so I could stay here. Yeah. It's like the entire area is desolate for at least a period of time, if not forever.
So like it's like so we find out that Sylvie is, or this other Loki, at the time, is hiding in these cataclysmic events.
That was very cool.
Yeah. That's genius. Who came up with that fucking shit?
This is what I mean. It's all about the pacing. You always feel like they just arrive at these huge things, but you never feel like you never feel like somebody came up, like I'm writing Loki and I came up with this really cool thing, like what they're hiding inside the thing. Oh man, okay. So then he says to them, no, it's a hiding thing, and then they go there. No, it's like, dude,
it makes perfect sense.
It's excellent, but like, discuss it. You're not going to be believed because you're a trickster and a liar. Yeah. But then, obviously, you could put it to the test, and then they'll believe you. Like, everything just felt everything in its time.
Yeah,
and it was
very appropriate for this kind of show.
Very appropriate for very appropriate for this kind of show. But yeah, I thought that was cool, and we didn't really have much action. Like, we had very kind of cool moments.
Yeah,
but we didn't really have much action at that point. I didn't feel.
And I love the shot in episode 1 where she hits him in the face.
Yeah.
He's like, you've been slowed down to 1/16 time, but you're feeling pain in real time.
That was B150, B51?
Oh, Hunter, it's 151, is it? And the winner is
B155.
Yeah, Hunter B155.
Played by the wonderful Wumi Masako.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll
you accept it?
I would.
No, I hope she does. She's definitely going to hear this.
Of course.
But yeah, I thought when they got to the first like cataclysmic event where they're going to try and go up against the other Loki, I thought it was due.
Yeah.
We needed this.
Yeah, and
the story needed it.
Yeah, and they built it nicely. And like, what did you think of? Like, it's so clever as well. It's like, a hideout in an apocalypse, a convenience store. So you'll always have supplies.
Yes.
You'll always have food. And do you think it's called Roxmart or something like that? Is it? Do you think that's a play on? Is it Roxxon?
Yeah. Which is going on. It was going on just recently in the Incredible Hulk storyline. So yeah, of course.
Yeah. Is it Roxxon oil or something?
Yeah, it's Roxxon, and the leader is what would you call a man who can turn into a giant bull? Centaur.
Centaur. Yes, that horse.
That's the horse with the. Anyway,
Minotaur.
everything is, and everything's. Oh my god! Like
No,
you know how
Minotaur.
many video? Yeah, well done, actually, Minotaur.
Minotaur.
Everything, the amount of videos about like it's Easter eggs and Rick and Morty, of course, somebody knows show that there's a lot of them. And now I've just I used to watch them all, and now I'm like, I get it, there's Easter eggs. You know, now I'm just like, I get it, there's Easter eggs, dude. I'm sorry, like they put 35 in each and every episode, and I'm going to stop looking for them.
Yeah, it's impossible to keep up. Like Marvel, like they waste no space. You know what I mean? And they wait. Like if you have something in the background, it's like it's something you touched on earlier. Everything's relevant. Like every little thing you bump off a table, that's going to come back in 4 episodes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? No, like, and Marvel wastes no space. They're like, okay, if we're going to paint the scene, we're going to have Easter eggs like a motherfucker all over this, because like instead of just like having it look like a pasty background, it feels like a real world. And people that have a far superior knowledge to me or you about this kind of shit will spot all that shit, and that's for the true diehards.
Oh, some some eagle-eyed viewers are so into it.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, some of them are literally making money off. You know what I mean? Like somebody who started like you know whatever YouTube channels where they discuss
25 Easter eggs you may have missed in
Marvel's
exactly.
Yeah. So and they don't disappoint. But eventually, I was looking at this stuff and I was even thinking that I was like, well, I think somewhere it's probably in the last year I checked out Easter egg wise. I just feel like it's such a it's just so done now. And God knows, like Marvel has so many franchises in the Marvel universe that God, you'd never keep up with it.
Yeah, that's the best thing about it. That's what makes their stuff so watchable, because you'll spot. So to quote Ben Stiller in the Ricky Gervais TV series Extras, it's layered, it's made that way. But like that's the way the Marvel kind of thing is. Like I watched Loki a couple of weeks ago, and I watched the first 2 episodes when they came out in the second week, and then I was super busy, so I didn't get to see them all till the last 4 episodes. I waited till the end, watched it all in one go, and I watched it all again this morning, and it's so rewatchable because there's so many little things.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Oh, and it's so highbrow, like we just said. It's not like this.
But the
really,
first time
really
you're grasping to the storyline because of all these highbrow things, but the second time, because you know all the rules and you know where everything's going, you enjoy it even more because you're not concentrating on.
Well, sometimes look, like again, to go back to that convenience store, we see Loki's walking around and Enchantress has taken over minds, and is
that who she is? Enchantress?
She's Enchantress, yeah. Or like this is their version of Enchantress. The second time they used the word, the first time they used the word enchant, I realized, it's Enchantress. Or they've mixed the character of Enchantress with a female Loki, which kind of works as well, to be honest.
Or she could be just masquerading as a female Loki.
Anything like that. Anything becomes possible. Actually, the last thing she said to him is, "I'm not you."
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Maybe that, actually. But anyway, she, I thought that we were in store for something, and it's cool. Like I like the red herrings. I thought it was done well, because I thought you're in store for a big bad. Like this is not, this isn't somebody you should be fucking with. And but I thought that it was finally happening. I think that's the first time I was watching it. I was like, finally.
What when she becomes introduced into?
Like where you kind of know what you're up
really
against.
Cool scenes, like when we see the attack at the end of his episode 1, where she ambushes. She's like, they're like, oh, I smell oil. Some fool's after grabbing a time machine, and he can come back. He can strike it rich or something. I love that scene. They're like, I love this where your man's like, let's just destroy everything. And you're one of the time agents is like, or the TV agents is like, no, there's somebody out there. He's like, let's go take a look. Why? You're about to destroy everything a minute ago. Is it
everything?
Is it not inconsequential, whoever's out there? And the fact that they go investigate, they walk straight into the oil patch. She sets the oil on fire and they all die. You know what I mean?
Let's destroy our enemy. But I think I've seen an enemy outside. We should go check before we destroy our enemy.
You know what I mean? It's like Sigourney Weaver says, nuke them from orbit. It's the only way to make sure.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But that's what I don't understand. It's like, why would you go investigate? You're willing to destroy everything. Everyone was agreed upon it 10 seconds ago. And now we're like, oh, let's investigate that shadowy person, even though we know there's a shadowy person out killing squadrons like us. You know what I mean? Like,
you mean a shadow like that shadow over there?
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, Shadow, what you doing over there?
Speaking of shadow, the foreshadowing, I thought I knew that there was going to be twists and turns in this.
Yeah.
But to find out, you find out kind of fairly early on that what you thought is going to be at least one of the bad guys might not even be a bad guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That
I think this show is all about saying that villains aren't always just villains. The villains are people and they do villainous things. But also, it's like, well, as we said, because you're a bad person doesn't mean you're bad all the time.
There is an argument for this show not actually having a villain.
Yeah. All of them are villains, technically.
All or none of them.
Yeah, exactly. Like even with the TVA are villains in a sense because of what they're doing with the sacred.
Oh yeah, of course. But
but
that's like the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few, and that.
But who are they to decide what timeline is sacred?
Yeah, but you know, like there was that. Oh God, I can't remember who first posed it, but I think it was a woman philosopher back in the early 20th century. But she, you know, it was that thing that the trolley.
Betty Boop.
Yeah, sure. And it's going to hit one person or it's going to hit five. And it's on the rail to hit one.
Yeah.
Or sorry, it's on the rail to hit five, and you can change it to one. Like
Yeah.
you kind of have a moral, an ethical obligation to do that.
Yeah.
Even though that one person would have lived without your interference.
Oh, it's like what the Americans say about dropping the atomic bomb. We killed thousands instead of millions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but like, is that ethical?
Yeah.
And what they're doing, eventually, they obviously
And
have
who's
to come
right
to
to-
peace. They have to come to peace with the fact that this is ethical.
Yeah, and whose right is it to decide what is ethical?
But that's the other. See, that's
You
the
know
thing.
what I mean?
Like,
Like-
yeah. But in the end, if
So-
you're destroying timelines, are you not killing more people in your same? Because there's essentially just one
Exactly.
that
you know what I
goes
mean?
through.
Yeah.
And me and you would be like very blessed to be
Yeah, if
apparently in it.
if we're this part of the sacred timeline, how many variants of Vinnies, how many variants of Noels died so we can exist?
Like infinitesimal.
You know
like,
what I mean? And
like a number with too many zeros. We don't even have a number
Yeah.
for how many zeros.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. You know what I mean? So like the TVA operate outside of time, so they've been doing this for millions of years. So like they've pretty much constructed the timeline they seen fit to allow it to exist. Whereas how would they right to do that? Like, you know what I mean? How is it their right to do it? Your break. Thank you. How you doing?
Thank you to our wonderful assistant Lorraine.
Hi Lorraine.
She takes good care of the talent.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll have M&Ms and only blue ones. We'll make it happen. I want it in the green room in 5 minutes. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Fred.
Right. So there's not really like there's no real heroes in this.
Yeah.
It's because it's a world that operates in the grey.
I think that at this
You know what I
point, the storyline for me became what the fuck is going on, as opposed to who do I have to kill or what's their obviously what's their objective as a part of what the fuck
To
is
me,
going
it was
on.
less like what the fuck is going on. It's like why the fuck is it going on?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you realise at this point when he kind of like in this scene, like Loki decides to kind of like fecks off with the female Loki,
With Sylvie.
and you know, and he's betrayed Morbius. Was it Mobius or Morbius?
Well, maybe it's Mobius.
Yeah, but at the same time, you knew that was kind of organically what he probably should do. Again, no bad guys there,
Mobius.
and then they're out. I don't know. This is where the story got a little bit kind of convoluted.
No, I
for me.
like this part.
Like
of the
you
story.
walk me through what they do.
I think episode 3 is Lamentus 1. I think that's the name of episode 3. So, one thing I love about this is that you open up this whole thing is like, what would it be like to witness the end of all these different worlds? And they kind of...
What would it mean?
No, how would it impact you as a human or as a person or as a being to watch the... what's the word? Not the insignificance of it all, but it's like it's so futile. Existence is futile because no matter what happens,
Fleeting as well.
Yeah, it's like look at this place. I think it's Lamentus 1. They go to him and Sylvie, and this is where they kind of hide out from the TVA.
And they had an idea of the Doom, unlike like Pompeii, which remember that the scene was just started suddenly happen. But this one
Which is
was
nearly best case
the
scenario,
absolutely
isn't it?
like futility of all these people that are not going to make it.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, she's witnessed this dozens of times.
Dozens
she's
of
like,
times.
She's like the arc doesn't make it.
Like, how do you justify this?
Yeah.
How do you justify this? And that's the difference where, like, you know, generals with a map, and they're saying if we move these forces here and these forces here. Well, when you said move these forces there, you just killed 1,000 people.
Yeah, it's what Stalin says. To kill one person is a tragedy. To kill a million is a statistic. Yeah. So like, what did you make of Lamentus 1? And some of these green screens, it looks a bit shoddy to me in some of these fucking newer movies.
Yeah, because they went obviously kind of warehouse green screen as opposed to like me and you, and the backdrop is a different.
Yeah,
it kind of went like because you see them like sitting on a rock talking to each other or whatever, and it's huge. Like it's the sky. And,
yeah, what do you think of this? Like,
yeah, I think that I think it could have been better.
Yeah,
but I mean,
it's 25 million an episode, and as you like to say, it's like it's 5 million for this episode,
yes.
10 for this, it's 100 for this, and like obviously sometimes we have to tighten the reins here a little bit so we can have our big.
Basically, we have $150 million to play with, and that's just broke down as per episode 25 million. That's the
That's an average.
But yeah, of course, like Game of Thrones is always the best example. Like, do you think the Battle of the Bastards cost more than every other episode in that season?
Like, if you've got a 200 million seasonal budget, Battle of the Bastards was 70 million.
Yeah, all by itself, and it wasn't even the entire all that went on in that episode. But that scene was so huge. Yeah,
fucking love that episode. God, do you remember the part where he gets he goes out to save his brother? And he dies.
Rickon.
And he's like...
Oh, I'd forgotten about it, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, do you remember though? And he gets dismounted and he waits for the fucking cavalry and he's on his own, he draws his sword. Great scene. And Game of Thrones, how do you end up bad?
We're coming for you.
I will end you. But like, so we looked at like the different kind of, like now we can have it set up, like Sylvie and Loki, they're on Lamented Swan. We're talking about what would it be like to live in these post-apocalyptic, not even near-apocalyptic worlds.
Just pre-apocalyptic is probably the word, isn't it? Because literally...
Pre-apocalyptic.
yeah. Outrageous. But it does kind of give you, again, this is kind of, look, this is, if you were to make it to something kind of relatable, this is being in the office, again, the general is at their table, and then it's been in the trenches.
Yeah.
And he went into the trenches, and it's a different thing.
What do you make of this episode, though? It's just like, they pretty much, they get there with their Tempath, is that what it's called? The device? Yeah. And it's, the battery's flat or some fucking bullshit, and they try to...
And also they're very, very hackable, apparently. You know what I mean? Like, as in, if I, like, it's the most advanced technology in all of the universe, but if I take yours off you, I can use it. Like, I mean, you couldn't use my phone if you took it off me, like...
Advance my ass. They don't even have HD fucking screens on them. Like,
yeah, I know. They don't need them.
They don't, like, the grainy ass picture on them. And like, come on, guys. I'm like, if I looked out the window and I seen all these skyscrapers and I'm looking at my Tempad that I can like literally travel through all dimensions and time, and I'm like, where's HD on this motherfucker?
To me, it felt like the kind of 1980s stock trade or something. It was supposed to be kind of chaotic and no more, no less than what it needed to be.
Or do you think it's because if he's a being originally from the 13th century, that even though his technology becomes advanced, he still has the original base of 13th century technology, so just more an advanced version of 13th century technology. Yeah. It's not the advanced...
Or I actually thought when he got there as well, I was expecting when he started to jump back into the bureau, I thought when he got there, because it was so highbrow that this could have been one of those things like when God shows up in an episode of something, it's how you perceive him.
Yeah.
He's, you know, it's the one person's looking at a being.
You're talking about the Kang.
Yeah, well, actually, not even when you get, but I was thought when he was at the bureau, as in, that's just how his brain was making sense of what was going on around him.
Do you remember that scene where he looks out the window and it's like, you said there was no magic here?
Yeah.
And that music in the background. Man, one thing I want to say, I've said it before, is like the soundtrack in this fucking show is incredible. Like the way they set the scene with these like haunting fucking songs, and the theme song for Loki is absolutely insanely good as well. Like, but like the whole way through they have this kind of mixture of this like kind of futuristic haunting music mixed with like Norse nearly music or something.
Yeah.
And like it sets the tone perfectly because like obviously a Norse god in a futuristic environment or whatever. You know what I mean? But like it's, I think like that's one of the major strengths of the show is that not only does it actually looks fucking terrific, but the song or the soundtrack, the way they set the scene every time. It's like I know like One Division and Falcon Winter Soldier, they had you know what I mean, they're cool moments. I just think when you look at Loki as a standalone thing or whatever, I think one of the major strengths is not just the cast or how pretty it looked, but the soundtrack and the way it set the tone of the show so well, like the whole way through it.
But that was it. Like that's what I was saying about like obviously it went from very silly to very very
like
heavy.
Buddy cop,
because again when they get on that, I'm going to call it a train.
It is a train.
It is a train. Yeah, it's like some.
But they call it a train.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, you know, like she finally gets some sleep, and she wakes up and he's singing like it sounds like old Irish,
it's Old Norse.
Old Norse, and he's singing in the bar and he's a bit drunk and stuff like that. And then it breaks into a huge fight scene. And it had been so kind of sad and morose, kind of building up to that, and then they sat down and they had a bit of banter, and then it just got silly. But I never felt like it, and it never knee jerked me to anything that I felt like
hedonistic. What did you expect?
Yeah. Yeah. And I always, I don't know, like I just can't fault them. I always feel like anywhere they bring me that they aren't getting there.
Yeah, and there's never a thing like, you know, because Marvel, right? You if you introduce someone with Guardians of the Galaxy, that was accepted. You got a talking tree, you got a talking raccoon, all bets are off. You got time travel now. You got a Mad Titan. You got Thanos. You got Infinity Stones.
God,
yeah, you know what I mean.
Literal gods.
Eternals coming out soon, like and. You can literally bring me to any part of this universe that you've created, and I will be happy enough to go there. I will accept it as like, of course, this exists. All this other stuff existed.
Oh yeah, no, at this stage, because this is post Endgame. This is post Endgame.
Wait, Noel. there it is. We've gone past the threshold.
Nicely done. To jump to the end, I don't know. This is probably common knowledge to all you people out there, but at 27 minutes and 53 seconds in the last episode of WandaVision, and 27 minutes and 53 seconds into this, Kang says we've gone past the threshold. And in WandaVision, if you were watching WandaVision at the same time, she just truly realised her own power.
No, that's when she became the Scarlet Witch. Yeah.
She actually became the Scarlet Witch. And he was like, we've crossed the threshold. It was beautiful.
Oh my God, Marvel.
I got a chill, just saying that. I actually got a chill.
It's because me and you, right, we love this kind of shit. And we look at DC and we're kind of like, oh, seriously, every time one step forward, two steps back.
Oh my God. I mean? And then two steps forward, one step back. And then you don't know where they are. You don't even know if they've made progress. It's hard to...
Wonder Woman won a 9 or 10 out of 10 movie. So fucking well.
Oh, I really enjoyed that. I went to that in the cinema.
And Wonder Woman 2 is such a big misstep. But if you look at Marvel, they're just like, one thing I love about TV series called Fringe is because they respected the intelligence of the audience, and then they were like, it's your job as an audience member, as a viewer, to keep up with the pace of the story. And when Marvel do something like we've reached across the threshold at the same exact moment, the Scarlet Witch, because these things are happening simultaneously. Like, that level of storytelling shows such a high level of respect for its audience, because they're not telling us that. Somebody, like we talked about, some super nerd out there that has this fucking real meticulous eye and breaking shit down, they went out and spotted that. Marvel didn't tell you that. They leave it up to you to go find it, or for, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what DC are really missing, is that respect for the intelligence of the audience. And they're constantly spoon feeding us. They're like, do you like this? Maybe we're going to do this.
Kevin Smith. Remember Kevin? Like, not to get too off track, but I feel like I need to get this out of my system. Yeah. When Kevin Smith flirted with the idea of doing a Superman way back when. Yeah. He said that he was talking to a producer that used to be a hairdresser. He said,
John Peters.
You fail upwards in Hollywood, you know. And he said that he wanted him to do he said at the end maybe Superman could fight a giant spider, a giant arachnid, like huge, like we're talking like the size of a mountain or something.
Something you don't know about spiders. They're the deadliest killers in the insect.
And he just thought, Superman has been around since 1939.
Yeah,
like
by Bob Kane and Joe Shuster.
Yeah, I have so much to work with.
Bob Kane was Batman. Sorry.
Yeah, Bob Kane was Batman.
Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Well done.
Yeah.
But he said, but your man ended up doing Wild Wild West with Will Smith. And at the end of it, your man had a steampunk fucking giant arachnid.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when somebody comes in and essentially they just want to wave their dick around.
Yeah.
And Kevin Feige and stuff like that, they don't want to wave their dick around. Yeah. They're thinking big, but it has to make sense, or it has to work. And even if it's so highbrow, like you said, they started with Iron Man and they got there. Yeah. Like we accept it walking in because we have Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
We have the Eternals just around the corner. We have Shang-Chi just around the corner. But we've also got like Wakanda, and we've got the list goes on.
Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we got Spider-Man No Way Home.
We had Ego, played by Kurt Russell. Yeah, you know what I mean?
A Celestial, a living planet.
So why not? So why not? But if DC did it, all of a sudden would be like, all of a sudden, just why not? It's something that's not even in DC canon.
The problem with DC is they would just do it all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Just like, oh, by the way, Superman exists. And now the next film is, he's fighting Batman now. And by the way, Wonder Woman exists also. And by the way, next time we're going to have Justice League. Yeah. Like, it's like, calm down, lads. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what about the casual? What about the people that don't know these characters? Introduce them to the slowly. It's like, you started later, you get to the end fucking after Marvel. That's the way it works. You don't rush to the finish. You know what I mean?
I remember there was a fucking a short comic strip somebody made, like just one page, and there's Batman going in for the death kill on Darkseid, and he goes, okay, just take care of my mother, what's her name? She goes, Martha Darkseid. And it's Batman just crying, and it's Wonder Woman going, for fuck's sake. It doesn't work, but this worked.
Yeah, because like they built it up, 24 movies now. You got your third TV series. And like, obviously Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. obviously some exists outside of canon now, I believe. Like, but the thing is now is you got Kevin Feige at the top of the pile. I know, what's his name? Glenn Jacobs is not Glenn Jacobs. Sorry, Jeff Johns, who's the kind of top guy over at DC, and he did all the Arrowverse and all that. He's kind of trying to be a figurehead over there, but he seems to be floundering because it's just like, it's like you make a movie. Oh, we'll have a Batman movie, we'll have a Joker movie that wasn't really a Joker movie, more a rip-off King comedy, but we'll have this and we'll have this and we'll have this. It's all disjointed. And when Marvel, you have Kevin Feige's like, okay, you want to make TV series, I'm going to make the fucking TV series. Or Netflix, all your rights are gone, cancelled. Marvel TV, you're gone, cancelled. Now it is. It's all going. I'm going to put it all on Disney Plus. If you want to put the Marvel logo on it, it's part of the MCU, and that's what Marvel have. They have Kevin Feige as the central figure going. This is what happens next. This is what happens next. And they go, oh, you don't like it? Tough shit. Because this is my universe.
Yeah.
This is what happens next. And this is the problem with Star Wars.
And if you have a problem, check your bank account.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
because I fucking delivered.
Yeah, it's like, look at the box office, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason Disney Plus is doing that in this year, apart from The Mandalorian, is because of Marvel. We've no Mandalorian
but
this year.
At this point, I know I just said about waving your dick around. At this stage, Kevin Feige can wave his dick around a bit because he's
earned it.
But because he's earned it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not because he's a producer. Nobody wants to see Superman fight a giant spider.
Yeah.
And they never did that in this. Everything was kind of canon. Everything existed inside the Marvel
it's just a modernistic version of the superheroes we grew up loving. Like,
this train that they were on, they were trying to escape this cataclysmic event because they weren't able to actually get out of it.
Yeah,
That's what I understand.
Pretty much. No, what happened was they had no power source for the Tempath to get out there.
Yeah.
So their plan was originally they were just going to welcome on the end of the world and just die, and then they realized why don't we make it go for the Ark? And Sylvie says, well, the Ark never makes it. It gets destroyed on it, on its like.
But it didn't have us on it.
Yeah, exactly. And Loki's like, didn't have us on it, so they decide to get on this train because the train is heading for the Ark. And then eventually on the train they get into a fight because Loki gets drunk and they get thrown off the train, and they have to walk towards the Ark to try and make it in time.
Right, it just blows up.
Yeah, it's actually after the train is when they decide that they're going to face certain death, and then Loki's like, no, we have to make it.
And this is kind of brings us back to what you were saying about kind of shoddy enough kind of green screen, because there's a point where she's just sitting on a rock and he comes up and apologizes to her, and they're just kind of going to sit it out and just the end of the world together, and they get saved by the TVA.
I'm getting really sick of green screen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, see,
where's that 25 million going, motherfuckers?
Me and Vinny have different tastes. We were both horror fanatics, different tastes. But the one thing that we've always
superior.
Yeah,
probably superior.
But the one thing we've agreed on is that the 1982's The Thing was one of the best films we've ever seen, and that was because they practical the fuck out of it.
Yeah, but you have a set. Like literally back in the day.
But just be clever.
Yeah.
They had a scene where a surgeon gets his arms cut off by a thing that he's trying to do a autopsy on.
Yeah.
But what they did is they actually got a gentleman who had lost his arms. Yeah. And they both blood kind of packs and stuff on that. And then, of course he was wearing a mask because he's doing.
Well, look at Star Wars.
Some medical. So they were able to have a scene where the blood starts spraying and it worked.
Yeah, but look at Star Wars. That's made in the 70s. You got somewhere like a Tatooine, right? That's a planet quite similar to ours, but also quite unlike ours, right? What do? It's a desert planet. Let's go shoot this motherfucker in the desert. Why does everything have to be green screen now? Why can't we just have travel around the world? You have a 200 million budget. Like, if you want to have a place that goes, oh, this place is a barren, rocky landscape, right? Go to a place that's barren, has lots of rocks, and throw a filter over that, and it looks like an alien world.
And when the dragon shows up in Game of Thrones, yes, it was green screen, and it was this, that, and another. But of course, it was
exactly. But when they did the dragon, I watched the making of it. They had drones with like flamethrowers on them, so they had something to look up.
Yes,
know what I mean?
Yeah, something to a frame of reference.
But if you look at Game of Thrones, King's Landing was made in Croatia or somewhere. It wasn't on the soundstage.
Oh, a lot of those actors worked on the show for years without ever being in the same country.
Exactly, you know what I mean? But why don't you just have an actual, I'm getting fed up with this foreground detail and in this green screen that you clearly see.
And green screen's not cheap. Yeah. I know it's probably cost effective, and it's certainly time effective.
Yeah, of course.
But this obviously was all shot inside. I think it was shot in Georgia.
Yeah,
because I was just when I was watching the end credits, just the kind of an Apple thing.
Yeah,
that they have
the whole thing with people weren't going to work in Georgia for the change.
That changed fucking fairly quick.
Did Georgia change the law after?
No,
not interesting.
Not at all.
Interesting.
It's because there's that famous guy that got arrested. He was queued for 7 hours to vote.
I thought they weren't going to work there now.
Yeah, I know. I thought that too.
Weird, because it says Meta Georgia at the end of everything we watch here.
And I seen like pride flags on some of these things. So I know,
interesting.
God,
interesting.
I don't know what to make of it.
We bring you to politics here.
Yeah. But anyway,
I couldn't resist because I seen it at the end of the oak, and I was like, "Oh, did Georgia change that law?"
Yeah. But at the same time, they were just like, "Look, we're here."
Yeah.
And we have like.
But it's like, they're on a treadmill. They're walking towards the screen. I'm sick of this shit. Like, you know what I mean?
And even now in 2021 with massive productions, you can still kind of see it.
Yeah.
And there's just something to be said for something that's quite practical.
It's not even kind of see. You know for a fact, like the outline is there.
Yeah.
Like if look, Marvel movies look fantastic, but like they could look fantastic with, like, if you look at some of my favorite shows are a Black Widow or Falcon Winter Soldier, because it feels like they're actually in these places.
Yeah.
Like, I know that was made in Central Europe, or I know that was made here, or whatever, you know what I mean? And just kind of feels a bit more real. Of course.
But that's the ground. That's what I was saying about the grounded versus, because it's not just the power set, because it's not like Mrs. Marvel can fight like essentially destroyers in space, and she can just be out in space and she's absolutely fine.
Yeah, she just flew straight through.
But you can also be grounded in both setting as well as power set or person or something like that. This wasn't grounded.
But you can make otherworldly, like, you can make earthly places look otherworldly by using
Star
filters.
Trek, man.
Yeah,
Star Trek.
I mean, look at Star Wars, like, you know.
But look at Star Trek, as in, like, they didn't have the budget of a Star Wars or even the ingenuity, to be honest. But they flew around the world and they found somewhere that could, a forest and like you said, a desert.
Exactly, like, you know what I mean? It's like the barren landscape. Okay, find a place that's rocky. Like, you know what I mean? You live in America.
What do you want from me?
Yeah, like this continent, like that continent has everything you need. Like, you can go and make a place look alienistic by just like throwing it, like the whole. Remember, I mentioned earlier about the purple hue this kind of show has. But like, you could easily just throw a filter, put them on a fucking rocky beach, and have them walk around, darken it up a little bit by using filters, and then you have an actual 3D landscape that exists in reality, and it just has that authentic look about it, instead of two people that are obviously walking through a soundstage. It's like, did you ever see the fucking?
Yeah, I felt that. It felt hollow.
Yeah, it's like,
you know, it felt hollow.
What were we talking about recently? I can't remember, but it was like, was it one of the Marvel ones where they're in, like, they're supposed to be at a hangar? Like, it's supposed to be like a hangar with all these ships and stuff, and it's clearly a soundstage.
Yes,
like,
I think
clearly.
was this on the kind of flying whatever shield?
I think it might be Nick Fury or something.
Yeah, that's where my mind went.
Yeah, and I was just like seriously, like, why do we need that?
Yeah,
just make it smaller. Like, if you wanted to be in a hangar, show me a glimpse of
time constraints. You know what I mean? Because I do get, like, you have to get
laziness.
You have to get this fucker on a plane, and you have
I
to
just think it's laziness.
I think it's laziness as well.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think, yeah. But
show me a wide angle shot of a plane, and then show me a metallic background. I believe he's in a hangar. I don't need to see the whole shit. Like,
no, I agree. Sure. Again, that brings you back to Star Trek, because essentially they had, like, you know, doors open up, turbo lift, but essentially somebody says cut and they go into the studio that's directly beside it, and that's where the turbo lift brought them. Yeah,
but that's why these old movies.
And I bought that.
So
that was fine with me.
Yeah,
that was fine. And the turbo lift never moved, by the way. It was just like blinking lights would go sideways or downways.
Yeah, or the way they used to open the doors was people were standing off stage and just pull the doors open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's kind of shit I love, though, because it's there. And the actors,
and you don't, and the thing is, you don't look at something to question it, but when it feels very obvious to you, that's always very hard.
Yeah, and and the fact that the entire episode was based on set on the Mentis one, that was so great. Like, obviously the show itself is very green screen heavy. Even the part in Pompeii didn't look that real.
No, yeah, with when the actual mountain erupted.
It's like when Vesuvius erupted. Like, so, like, I just think it creates a disconnect for me. These movies are probably not going to age great because of it, because of this heavily.
This is a show.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, the show, like the MCU in general. If you look at Spider-Man 1 and 2, it was like the pinnacle of filmmaking when we watched them when we were kids. And then when we go back in 2020 and look over them,
we did all the Spider-Man, and just to kind of really hammer home Vinny's point, I watched it, and then I came here, and Vinny was watching it, and I was like, I can't watch this fucking film again.
Yeah,
and I did.
Yeah,
but you know,
turn it off. Like.
Yeah, but no, we sat and watched, and I remember just it was so dated.
Yeah.
It was
and
so
that's the problem with CGI.
And I didn't even feel that much from some of the old Superman or something. It just felt
like
so dated.
The Thing, 1982, that's
the pinnacle for me.
Yeah, it's like, what, 40-year anniversary next year?
40-year anniversary.
And, like, I can watch that, which I do annually, and it still impresses me every single time I watch it. And I know I'm going to watch some of these Marvel movies, like the ones from 2008.
Well, look, I think it stands to reason that if it didn't fucking do it for you today, literally today.
Exactly, like, it even looks a little dated today, doesn't it?
Well, there you go. Like, yeah. But obviously, this is the thing again where I think they obviously look at stuff and go, wow, like, maybe we need another $1 million for that, or maybe we need to go back and shoot that. And somebody says, yeah, but don't forget that we have this scene where they get to the place at the end of time. And we need, I need that. Again, I told you it's not 25 million episode average.
Yeah, exactly.
That we need that for this. We just need it. Unless I'm going back to the studio and asking for another 50.
When you have an episode like the one where they go to, like, pretty much after Loki gets pruned, like that's going to cost a fortune to make. It's
Yes.
extremely special effects heavy. You know what I mean?
Well, yes, yeah.
You know what I mean? You have an entire world, and you have fucking someone like making Asgard out of his mind and shit like that. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, Charlie Horse. Oh.
Just to get back and kind of get a little bit chronological, they get saved by the TVA and also imprisoned.
Yeah, what happens is they share a moment of like, kind of like, I don't know, they can look at each other longingly.
Yeah.
And because of that, a branch pulls out from the sacred timeline all of a sudden, and that's where the TVA find them on Lamentus 1.
That was it, yeah, because it was too kind of like...
Because they couldn't find him because the Tempat was turned off.
Yes.
Because it was dead. And
that was right, and it created a branch.
Yeah, and no, them pretty much caring for one another created a branch.
Yeah.
Because it was such an odd thing to have two variants pretty much having.
And they were trying to keep their relationship low key.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah. I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
But but what did you mean? Like, so like it kind of like, because we're kind of powering through, and that's simply because of the pace of the show itself.
Yes.
Because it's like straight away TVA.
They never, but like they don't rest on their laurels like Marvel. Yeah. This is what I'm saying. But at the same time, they don't bust their nut trying to get there immediately.
Like we were like happy with a 2-hour movie. This is like a 6-hour movie. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's right.
I mean? And they just go like straight away. They're just like, okay, TVA straight away, and then they're like, okay, Sylvie, and they're like, okay, you can exist in apocalypse without affecting the timing. And every episode is something huge happening, like, you know what I mean?
I did like when we find out kind of around this time that Enchantress, as powerful as she is, it's not that she can create a world, she can manipulate it, but she uses your memories that exist inside of you to do so.
Oh yeah, this is where we get the big reveal.
This is where the big reveal, where the word variant was been thrown around like inmate or criminal. Yeah, you know, you see like eyes forward inmate, or whatever like
that's
that.
That's what they call it, anachronism and anachronism.
Anachronism. So that's like it's you know it's a pejorative term that to use because you're like you obviously don't have a terrible lot of work. You are literally what they're fighting, and then you find out that every single person there is a variant.
Yeah. And that the TVA has been manipulating them.
And they were under the impression that they were created by the council.
Yeah, the timekeepers.
Timekeepers.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Apparently,
the look on your face is brilliant because you weren't even close. You're like the council timekeepers. You're like timekeepers. You didn't even miss a beat. You're like, of course, that's what I said.
And this is where we're introduced to Neo.
Yeah. But one thing I like, so pretty much they get their hands back on Loki, Sylvie. And then they go on to custody. Hunter B-155 takes Sylvie. She shows her another life she might live.
Yeah, because this is it. Sylvie had been obviously Enchantress had gotten her hands on her once before.
Yeah,
but she kind of obviously had the feeling that wasn't implanted. There was something there.
Yeah,
like, that was me.
Yeah.
And so she I know her. I thought again was the other like anything for the cause because she was a soldier.
Yeah,
she was like she had the
mission
because
that's what they told her she was.
Yeah,
yeah.
And she was like a squad leader and all of that kind of jazz. Like she was high up in the pecking order, but not kind of like not detective or something is what I probably think Mobius was. You know, that kind of didn't have to wear the uniform.
Mobius. Yeah, he's kind of like a detective. She's kind of more like a beat cop or something.
Yeah, like a high level beat cop, whatever.
Like,
again, I don't know the grades.
Like be a sergeant or something.
Yeah, something like that. And she obviously was the last person I expected, which I quite liked. But there was something real to her. She learned to trust her instinct. So she breaks Sylvie out and she makes her give me another show me again, and she. And you can see there was something very human about Sylvie as well, because at this point she just touches her, like consensually touches her hand, and the green magic.
I don't think you had to add that.
Yeah, no, but she's been doing it. She's been taking over. She'd been for her own purposes. She'd been taking over people.
People don't be thinking Sylvie's up here raping people.
But she, I remember she said, "I look happy," and Johan just nodded and said, "Yeah." And you read at that point there was something. Obviously, both of them at that moment, I remember, were very human. Both of them were very human at that point. There was nobody trying to manipulate anybody. This, in fact, if anything, it was the first moment where kind of very either brainwashed or confused characters versus sneaky characters. It was a very candid moment.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that they didn't go into the memory. I was thinking this when I was watching it. When she touched her hand and you could see the green kind of magic. And I was expecting to be brought into the memory, because that's what they do. You know, everything's first person view. You get to go in there, but I liked that they didn't, because it was just Sylvie just kind of like feeling actual empathy and giving her exactly what she asked for, and she just opens her eyes and says, "I looked happy," and I just thought that was clever.
Yeah,
I thought that was clever because they didn't have to like. I thought I was going to see a little girl.
Yeah.
Who had a mother.
Yeah.
Or whatever her situation was.
They probably had no budget left out all that fucking.
I don't even care. But I don't even care. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. As in, like, play smart. You don't have to play hard. You have to play smart.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just good cinematography, as the corporate taught me. I thought it was brilliant. You were the guys trying to, like, everyone's talking, oh, I love the show. Me too. Yeah. I love the cinematography. He goes, I too love the cinematography.
But, so this is where we find out now that all the after the TVA, all the agents or variants plucked from branched out timelines that were later wiped out, and their whole lives were, like, wiped out of existence.
So every one of them has a version inside of the sacred timeline.
Yeah.
Probably, like, come and gone, because it could be anywhere inside of that line. But they existed.
Yeah.
And lived out some semblance of normality.
Yeah, and pretty much their entire existence, their entire role in the universe as agents of the TVA is a complete lie. And this is where Loki, pretty much you find out. So Owen Wilson, Loki takes into custody with Owen Wilson, same as Sylvie was taken in by Hunter B-155.
He tortures Loki for a second. I think we need to touch on that where he goes, where are you putting me? He goes, I'll show you. And then he goes, he's back in Asgard, and Sif comes in, and she's got a lock of her own hair. And she whatever, she curses him out, punches him and hits him in the nuts. And then he was like, fine, I remember what I did after this. I had a bath and a glass of wine. And then she walks in again, and she goes, you rat, or whatever it is. And all of a sudden I'm just thinking, he's poor balls, man. He's poor balls.
That just reminded me of the scene with Doctor Strange and Dormammu. Dormammu, I've come to strike a deal. Or
That's actually brilliant. I didn't spot that. But that's exactly it. As it trapped in a moment. Strange used it as a weapon, and TVA used it as a torturing mechanism.
Yeah, which is very clever though. Like,
very clever.
No matter, even if it was just a small thing, if I come, like, the loop is me flicking you in the fucking ear and walking away. If I do that 1,000,000 times, that's going to drive you insane.
Oh, water torture. It's just a droplet of water on your head. That's
exactly. Like,
but you're left with it.
Yeah, and like anything on a loop for a long enough period of time, like Groundhog Day,
I happen to be engaged to a woman who absolutely cannot take even the smallest semblance of sound. Short but true story. I was watching a horror film with her once. She goes, "You're not hearing that?" I was hearing what? She goes, "Dun dun dun dun." You're not hearing that? And I'm like, I'm hearing you saying, "Are you hearing that?" And she goes, "No, there is no. There's something. I have to go check." Anyway, she goes out, and across outside of the cul-de-sac I live in, across the green, there was a kid bouncing a basketball. And she had to stop the fucking film I was watching.
Did she drop kick him?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Well, no, you don't. It's basketball. Hand kicked him.
Yeah, hand kicked him. What's that even mean? She kicked him in the hand.
Remember Community? They call him a fist kicker or something like that. His punches are as hard as kicks.
But so, like, at this stage now, the TVA is unraveling. Owen Wilson is doubting himself, or Mobius, he's doubting himself. Sylvie is, like, pretty much on is.
She's gone wrong. She's gone off the reservation.
No, she's back in. She goes back to the TVA, and then they find out now that Agent B or Hunter B-155 has been compromised, and then they find out that pretty much Owen Wilson goes somewhere with Loki. I can't remember. He brings him back, and he gets pruned. And now this is what
he meets Rainslayer. And he
takes her temper,
and she'd already had a conversation. She's like, if you could go anywhere in time and stuff like that, and he harkens back to that, and he says, you know where I'd probably go wherever it is I'm from. And
no, that's later on now.
Is it?
Yeah, because she says pose the question to him first when they're having drinks.
But that's what I mean. I said he looks back on it, like when he finally leaves Loki.
Oh yeah, when right before she prunes him.
And she prunes
or she
him.
orders someone to prune.
And then she brings him to the council. It's a better name.
Yeah. What did you make? Right, this scene here with the timekeepers, I couldn't understand the fucking thing that the outside two were saying.
I was watching this the first time I watched it on the television downstairs, and I just thought, you know what, whatever, I'll get back to it, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I watched the second time on my laptop, and I was sitting there going, right, I'm going to be talking with Vinny about this in a few hours.
Yeah. Center.
Yeah, center. And then
what are they saying?
Nothing.
Yeah, I could kind of understand the middle dude, but the outside
exactly,
guy,
the middle dude, yeah.
Yeah, but there
was like a green kind of Snorlack.
Yeah, he was like
Grinch looking dude. Yeah, there was a Grinch looking dude on the left.
I can't understand. I should have put on the subtitles.
Oh yeah, I was actually looking to see if I had they're called SRTs, I think now.
Yeah,
files.
no, I watched it through.
And I went back into my Sorry, I was about to say download. I watched it on Disney Plus.
Of course you did. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
So like
I'm
SRT.
so silly.
You're thinking of something else.
I was thinking of something else.
So pretty much what happens, you tried to use the subtitle feature on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And it wasn't
One of the
working.
many great features that I pay for.
Yeah, exactly. I'm watching legitimately.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That word was harder to say than I thought.
But I eventually, I have to say, I was just like, you know what? And in my head, I did say, Vinny will just tell me.
Yeah.
You know, I was Vinny will tell me, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I couldn't understand a word. All I heard was, a variant.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, next guy, variant. I'm like, all right, guys.
Something dark.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it was.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because it's like, and then this is where we find out pretty much fucking, you know, I don't want to go see my scene, but so
B-155 comes in and throws a
saves
weapon.
them, and Loki, Sylvie throws the dagger and takes the head off the central dude that we can actually under the fucking stand.
Yeah, she threw it kind of like a buzzsaw, threw it sideways, absolutely decapitates him, and he just falls.
And we find out he's a robot.
Yeah,
and so now we've realised that not only is there a man behind like the curtain, but there's a man behind the man behind the curtain. You know what I mean? Though, like, you know, I think that's where we find out that these truths that we hold to be self-evident aren't actually not as true as we thought they were. Like, you know what I mean? And that these timekeepers are just, created by someone that's obviously far more powerful than we could ever possibly understand or perceive. And who the fuck is this character? And this is what pretty much the last 2 episodes of the entire season is about. Because it's all about, the first 4 is kind of like the red herring. Get to the timekeepers, and that's what the whole first 4 episodes are about. And then after that, they pull the rug out from underneath you, and the timekeepers aren't even real. So
and the timekeepers are supposed to be the
all powerful.
You
know what I mean? Like 3 Thanoses or some shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like even be in their presence or something, and they're nothing because when Sylvie takes out the middle one, the other two just shut down. Yeah, no, it's just a basic system. They just
maybe that's why they couldn't say fuck all because the middle guy was like they were
like
just
the Hall of Presidents or something.
Yeah, 4 score and a variant.
Yeah.
4 score and 7 variants ago. But this is where we kind of see now that like what they thought they knew, they don't really fucking know anything.
No,
like in a world that seems so hard to understand, the little bit that they thought understood is a complete misnomer to them.
Yeah,
it was a lie.
I don't know what's going on, but it traces back to these 3 fuckers.
Yeah, and it even shows to Ravonna Renslayer that the word she thought was the way she thought was. She didn't know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, and it just leads it to the point that like even these supremely powerful beings, that they're not even on the level of the Celestials, or as we see later on, Kang the Conqueror and stuff like this, like or Thanos or whatever. Maybe even Thanos is not even on their level or whatever. You know?
No. Like again, Infinity Stones or trinkets. You know?
Yeah. So like now the last 2 episodes is pretty much a big run in. To discovery of, because now we see Loki gets pruned in the scene.
And that's when you get like, you know, straight away that there's probably more to pruning than meets the eye.
Yeah, exactly. Like so he gets pruned in this episode by Ravonna Renslayer is it? But whatever, Ravonna, right? She prunes him, and then Sylvie goes on the run, and now this is where it leads up to. Pretty much, we see the whole thing.
Well, Sylvie takes down Ravonna then. Like, she has her to.
She goes on the run, I think, because pretty much the next episode, the adjoining storylines are Loki with all
purgatory
the
kind of
with
all
the void.
The void with all the kind of variants of
exactly
himself,
all the pruned variants and like, so he's there, and the other part of the story, part of the episode is her being chased by Ravonna. She steals her tempath. Again, because we find out that earlier on, the little kid, I don't know her name, she plays Judith in The Walking Dead. She played young Ravonna, and I hated when they picked 2 actors who look absolutely nothing alike, because that little kid does not look anything like Sophia DiMartino, who played Sylvie. But like, so the next part is all a big run into the introduction of Kang the Conqueror, and in the next scene we're going to see all the different variants, or the next episode we see all the different variants of the different Lokis, one played by, because it's pretty much a cut sequence of the previous episode. We see the introduction of Richard E. Grant, and then we see this like kid Loki, and there's like an alligator and this other fucking dude. Like they're all just called Loki, aren't they?
Shit ton of Lokis, basically.
Yeah, we get introduced to a baker's dozen of Lokis, and like, what did you make of this scene? Like, where now we understand pruning is no longer it's not really a death sentence, as you say. It's kind of like a sentence to purgatory.
You
like,
say
you know?
you're pushed to the side.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You're pushed to the side. That's kind of what it is. You're outside of harm's way. It's like a celestial version of being locked in the closet under the stairs. You know,
you're taking out the events that can actually alter any timeline. Pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah.
What did you think of the introduction of Richard E. Grant, and we get to finally see the old school Loki costume?
Oh, I loved the little because they did it in WandaVision too, where she was dressed up for Halloween.
Yeah.
As kind of like a very comic-y Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
And
same with Vision.
Yeah, same with Vision, and I love that we just kind of got to see that. As in, like, what if it was? To me, it was like, what if they met it in the 90s or something? You know what I mean? Like.
It'd be shit.
Yeah, it'd be shit. Yeah, exactly. But it was fun because it's like if you hired a Loki for your kid's costume party, or
if you hire Loki off Wish.
Yeah, if you hire Loki off Wish, this is what you would have gone. I grant it lended itself to a bit of slapstick, which is probably due because a lot had happened.
And Richard E. Grant is such a good actor that you could have that slapstick, but it has such high gravitas.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That, like, he's so believable even in.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then Loki kind of could see again for somebody who had such a huge idea of himself to see himself essentially parodied.
Yeah.
And even if he's not, let's say, the parody per se, he's more of a grounded and cool Loki. But you see, like, this is what you are. You're just over here with these dudes.
Have all their own like. I hate when you see all these time traveling, all the different versions from all these different dimensions look identical, which is insane because if all these different things play out, like. What if your father had met a Latina woman before he met your mother, but they never got together, and then now you're Noel because of your father and your mother, but you were always destined to be Noel, but just different variations of Noel. So what if he got with that Latina woman and you're a Latino Noel? Yeah. And like that's what I love about this is like you have a Loki, but you don't just have a Loki, you have a person of color, like you have an African American guy. And you have like an alligator Loki, you have like a fucking monstrous Loki that they allude to earlier on. Like, you know what I mean?
Again, it's slapstick, but it also says none of the decisions you've made have mattered.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
To you, and that's about it.
That's it. Yeah. You're like you're just like he's described later as a flea on the back of a dragon, but he managed to hold on.
Yeah,
that's a pretty cool way of putting it.
Yeah, and like that's pretty much like so. The major part of this story is so that to Loki that. This glorious purpose that he clings to is not really so glorious. He is very insignificant. Yeah, and this whole episode is pretty much the running because I kind of want to squash these two episodes together because it's pretty much all just building to Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah, we're about to get there.
Yeah,
right,
I want to kind of run it through and then we get to the break. And so, like, what did you make of the finale? Just say, like, so we have to get past. Was it Lilith or some shit to get past the smoke demon, which I hate. Like, just make it a monster. Just make it a monster I can see. I hate smoke demons.
Make it like a Heimdall, just a bridge you can't cross.
Yeah, I'd say some huge motherfucker. Like, so pretty much we see they realize. So pretty much Sylvie finds out the pruning is not the death sentence we think it is. She goes to the void after Loki, and the two of them come up with a plan to enchant this smoke creature. And because they believe it's a guard dog, it's a gateway into the land beyond the void, which is the place that the man, he who remains, resides. And if you can get to him, you can kill him, and then you can put an end to everything. So what did you make of the run through? We get to see all the awesome different variants of Loki, and we find out that there's even one Loki who's a kid that kills his version of Thor. We even see a Thor that's trapped in a jar that's trying to get to his Mjolnir, but can't get to because it's trapped in a jar. And we see all that play through, and it just kind of lands right nicely on the lap of Kang the Conqueror in this world beyond the void. And what did you make of the whole finale and the run through to the finish?
I love the run through to finish because it was like its own what if thing that Marvel does. Yeah, it was like he ran through all of his own kind of sequences, and he kind of if he was to kind of overcome it, he had to let go of this image he had of himself, and just go forward as somebody who's actually fighting against tremendous odds, which he has done before, don't get me wrong, but that he's not special, but if he's determined, maybe. And that
Loki.
Loki
consistently loses.
Yeah, exactly. But if he was determined to put one foot in front of the other, because that would crush you, wouldn't it? Imagine just being there, like, to everybody else it would be funny, but this is you, like, this is everything you've been, this is a joke. Yeah, you are a joke.
He once thought himself a god, now he's just completely nothing. He's a flea on a dragon. Like,
absolutely, a flea on a dragon that managed to hold on. I loved it. Because they had debased him a bit, but now, like, by the time I'd say the second season comes around, they've laid the groundwork for him to have
Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah. But there's going to be a degree of humility in Loki, as in there's something so much bigger than him happening now.
Yeah.
He's not. He even, like, you could see when he was saying, like, later on, I don't want the throne.
Yeah.
You could see why you.
I just want you to be okay.
Yeah, because all he could care about is what goes on in his existence.
Yeah.
And his world.
And I think he just wants to have a place.
Yeah,
like,
and it doesn't need to be a throne. It just needs to be something that's his.
Because when he was a kid, he believed that I'm owed the throne of Asgard if Thor doesn't get it. And after that, he's like, well, I'm Laufey's son. I'm the son of an ice giant. Pretty much, he's a king also. I deserve a throne. No matter what, you look back through my lineage, I belong to royalty. Whether that be an ice giant, whether that be Asgardian royalty, I belong to royalty. So I deserve a throne myself because I'm a prince. Whether that be a prince of Jotunheim, prince of Asgard, prince of Midgard, Earth, whatever. He believes I'm a prince. My ascension ends with me sitting on a throne. I'm a ruler. I'm a god, right?
Yeah.
And this whole entire season is about, no, Loki, you perceive yourself to be a god.
Yeah.
What you do is grand to you. What your actions you do or whatever commit whole gravitas to you.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, they're nothing.
No.
You're an anachronism. You're a variant.
Even your long life.
You don't even
What's 2,000 years compared to 15 billion years?
Yeah, exactly.
What's 100 years compared to 2,000 years if we're looking at 15 billion?
Exactly.
What's your divine purpose if I've seen you 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways and none of them have ever amounted to absolutely anything?
And that's when I look back at this series, and that's what I think the best thing about it is, like, if it's hard to humanize a character to just massacre 80 people over a space of a weekend or whatever, but to show him how to be human is the only way we can perceive him in a humanistic way.
Yeah.
And the way they did this whole entire season was, you are not this great creature, you're not this god, you're as every bit as insignificant as these people that you try to subjugate. And that's what the entire season of Loki's about. We're going to, I think Marvel realized if we're going to humanize him in the eyes of the audience, especially this iteration of Loki who hasn't gone through the transformational arc that the other Loki did that got killed by Thanos, we're going to humanize him in the eyes of the audience. We're going to have to humanize him in the eyes of himself as a character.
Yeah, of course.
And if we can connect himself in a more humanistic tone, then the audience can connect to him in a more relatable way.
Exactly.
And I think that's what the whole thing is. It has this all great time.
Have noble purpose and also give him like a hill to climb.
Yeah, exactly.
He was given both.
But at the end of the day, like, as well, he's like, okay, you can save the timeline, you can save Sylvie, and they give him all these decisions to make, and none of them are about saving himself.
No.
And that was the major thing about it, because Loki's such a self-centered, self-involved character, even though he even fell in love with himself in a sense.
Basically, yeah.
You take all these things away from him, and all these decisions he made had ramifications that didn't affect him in a sense, but they saved other people or whatever. And he's hedonistic or whatever, as he said, and before he wouldn't have cared about the ramifications of his actions, but now he does. And now he looks past this, like the throne, as you said, and he sees love in Sylvie himself or whatever. But I think it might be someone masquerading as a Loki, and I think you might be right. It might be Enchantress. It might not be a Loki at all afterwards.
Yeah.
I just think it sets it up nicely, like when you have.
You just said Enchanted too many times.
Yeah,
really
and I didn't even spot that. But like when they kill Kang, so pretty much when they kill off Kang the Conqueror, he tells us about this multiversal war that happened to all these other Kang the Conquerors. It's like pretty much what happened in failed states like Libya and Iraq for a time.
Yeah.
That if you take away the dictator,
the one devil.
Yeah, it leaves the power void.
I remember somebody saying about Hussein, like he was a monster, but he kept the wolves from the door.
Yeah.
And and they took that and they brought it on a massive scale, you know.
Yeah, and so the thing is, but Sylvie, unlike Loki, couldn't look past her own anger and her own rage.
No.
And she kills this version of Kang the Conqueror, launches this multiversal madness that's obviously going to bleed into Doctor Strange, and now we're going to see a multiversal war, and it's obviously going to have untold ramifications for the MCU going forward. And Noel, before we get the fuck out of here for a break, unless you want to stay on Loki, or we just get out of here for a break?
Just get out of here for a little quick break.
Yeah. So alright folks, we'll see you after the break. This is Dark Side of the Moon. I'm your host Vincent Green, he's your host Noel Gentui, and now a word from our sponsors.
Holy comic books, it's Batman!
Not just comic books, Billy. Bosco's has it all.
T-shirts, baseball cards, models, posters, computer games, role-playing games, anything a law-abiding citizen could want.
Golly, Batman, you sold me.
Just a Gotham City minute, Billy. There's more. Bosco's has gift certificates.
Take it from this Cape Crusader. Don't be a joker. From the Boscos.
And we're back from the break. Thanks for hanging around if you're still with us. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host, Noel John Tui. This is Dark Side of the Moon. Before we left, we were talking about everything Loki, all things multiversal and all things madness. And if you've listened to the show before, you know the second portion of it really centers around the what if segment, where what if we were the directors of the show and what would we change about it, and also we have the best and worst to wrap it up. But Noel, if you were to look through the Loki experience, what would be the thing you would change if you were the director?
Again, I felt maybe it was a bit convoluted at times, but I don't know whether it was that my lack of ability to keep up with it, and it was very high concept, and of course, being high concept and throwing an M. Night Shyamalan in every 90 minutes.
Ooh, what a twist!
Ooh, what a twist! So I don't know if I would necessarily change that, but sometimes it felt like they were throwing a lot. And the pacing was actually quite good, but I felt a little bit inundated. Like just sometimes, I mean, with the look and scope of it sometimes. But I know that's not to say I didn't enjoy it thoroughly, but I would have grounded it a bit more at times because the concept is really, really high. You don't, you know, and then it was executed really, really well. So maybe you could have dialed it down. There was areas you could have dialed it down, brought it back a little bit.
I just
that
think when you're explaining a sacred timeline that can possibly branch out to infinitesimal, not infinitesimal, but infinite amounts of multiverses and all these kind of different timelines that can branch out, like in any kind of, depending on whatever Nexus moment happens, or Nexus event, that like I just think it's hard not to be convoluted. It's hard.
True, no, I grant you that.
A very thick kind of like,
and it's easy to sit here and say that they should have done that.
It's very hard to explain difficult things without sounding like you're trying to be overly smart.
Yes.
You know that kind of way, like?
Yes.
Because it's...
I suppose I'm kind of saying I wish they'd dumbed it down a bit because I'm dumb, but...
Can you dumb it down a shade? I don't have time for your medical mumbo-jumbo. But we're going to ticker with your ticker, Homer.
I think they... I think sometimes they were trying to go for the visually spectacular when they didn't need to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, put me on a fucking... rocky beach somewhere instead of like green screen and the fuck of Lamentus Swan.
Yeah, and like, you know, like there was times where that hue of purple seemed to be very present anytime they were out and about, which was cool. But you
makes it look otherworldly.
But it makes it look otherworldly.
Because the sun's position is different, whatever way the atmosphere is.
The atmosphere itself is different. But I thought it was really
Science,
cool with Kang the Conqueror's kind of like
science bitches. Do you remember Jesse Pinkman?
But I thought it worked with Kang, the kind of hubris. So sometimes I could have grounded at least the aesthetic.
John Majors,
I think. Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors. Yeah.
John Majors, a prime minister from England from the 90s.
Is he?
But that like it's a small complaint because I enjoyed the hell out of the show, but.
Yeah, it's so hard though when you're talking about a bureaucratic agency that exists outside of time as we know it, and they control all these multiversal timelines from branching out to to keep the what's the word I'm looking for, to keep the kind of not sustainability, but to keep the integrity of the sacred timeline. It's just very hard. It's like when you watch Inception. Like I know it's like not a great movie, but like when you watch something like Inception. These such high concepts traveling to a place that's 1 hour here, 7 years in our world. It's so hard to explain it to sound like you're not being up your own ass.
Yes.
But like it's like watching Sunshine, a movie we both very enjoyed. Like, but like it's such a high concept. Like a lot of you are like, oh, dumb it down a little bit. But sometimes I would rather chase after the understanding of the premise than have it dumbed down to the point where they're spoon feeding it to me. Like I love something like a Fringe or Person of Interest. It's very intricate. Like I'm like, if I need to rewatch it, I'll rewatch it. It's going to be there. It's on Disney Plus. So like I've rewatched it now a second time and a far superior understanding. And like the thing is to make these shows so rewatchable that even though they're so convoluted or complicated to understand at times, that they're so rewatchable you can keep going back and your understanding will only grow over time. You know.
Agreed. Yeah. Sorry, to get back to the original thing, I suppose I would go back to what the best was. I thought the fact that
we're still in What If.
Or still in What If.
This fucking guy.
You said what was the worst thing about it?
No, I said what would you change?
What would he change? No, he has me by the soft and
I probably have it recorded somewhere.
Yeah, no, you know that's why you admitted. Because you had literal receipts. I would have bought it at death.
Yeah. It's like, it's not like you've been.
I don't. It's not a terrible because I thought it was cast really, really well. I thought the action scenes were good. I like the close. I like the fact that they did a lot of close combat.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, you know, huge shootouts and war kind of scenes. I kind of like that.
I love the obsession that these outer worlds seem to have with neon in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we travel to the outskirts of known universe. Let's hook up some neon signs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would like maybe if the office was a bit darker.
Yeah.
You know, because what they actually do is so menacing.
But that's the reason they make it look so
mundane.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But I would love if
like
but let's just say outside of it, if you could see them in action, if that just lent itself to a much darker kind of tone.
Yeah.
Because again, I get the mundane thing, and I wouldn't necessarily take it out. But I just thought maybe you could have balanced it into it, because like they come down and they set a reset charge.
Yeah.
And I would love if you could see how okay they were, because like I said, there was the generals with their maps, and there was the trenches, and you never seen how the soldiers that were doing all this would feel about it in the trenches, and when you see their complete indifference, that was a dark tone. But I thought they could have explored that.
Yeah, I just think they were so high on the dogmatic structure of the TVA and what they were fed. They were like, we believe that we're created this for sole purpose of protecting the integrity of the sacred timeline.
Yeah.
They were just like a Hitler Youth sort of thing. They were so brainwashed into their meaning for existing that they didn't question it. You know what I mean?
They killed Thanos levels of people on a daily basis.
Yeah. Like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how fucking huge a scale we're talking.
Exactly, like, and that's the thing when you have like a bureaucrat or something that's like, he'll like push, like he'll just go, oh, I move this here, and it could affect like 1,000 people's jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could shut down a company. You know what I mean? And this is to the effect of you're a bureaucrat. You just go like, oh yeah, set the reset charge. Let's get out of here. Prune this guy. It's like it becomes so second nature to you. You don't even think about it. You think you're just like pushing papers around. But these papers that you're pushing around are having a devastating effect on all these possible timelines that should have existed and never got the opportunity. And they quit. Well, what's to say they're not the sacred timeline? What's to say this is the sacred timeline? This is only the sacred timeline because it was adjudged to be the sacred timeline by that version, that variant of Kang the Conqueror, the Man Who Remains, or He Who Remains, whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so, like, that's the fucking thing about this kind of show and shit. Like, but like when I look at it, is the what if I would changes. I think it just comes down to the green screen. I really enjoyed it. Like, it just takes me out of shots. Like, I just think, like, as I said,
you realize you're watching actors.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? I can see this.
You can see the soundstage in your head.
Exactly. Yeah. And it takes me over a little bit, like when I'm looking at Lamentus, like this should be this otherworldly experience for me, like whatever, and like the way it is kind of for Loki, not so much for Sylvie because she's been there previously. Like, I just think when you have this whole thing, or like when I mentioned before about the aircraft hangar, it just takes you out of it. I want to see, like, I don't need to see the immensity of the shot. Just imply it if you're not going to put them in a real place, because I don't need to see this big fucking shoddily constructed green screen that seems to be infecting every single big budget movie nowadays. Like, what happened practical effects? Why are you spending that 200 or 300 million on, like, if everything's being put on a green screen?
Yeah.
Like, what happened to set construction? What happened to set design? Like, you know what I mean? The show itself looks terrific, and the TVA looks amazing. And I love the different contrast of the colours and the different worlds.
Well, maybe they should have taken more time. But like I said, the pacing is one of the most excellent things about Marvel. But I'm talking about, when I say that, I would be talking about why I, the viewer, am actually seeing.
Yeah.
But maybe as from the production side of it, they could have taken a little bit more time. And
I think so. Yeah. It's a little bit unpolished in places, I think. You know what I mean? Like, and I think a few the bigger blockbusters now, maybe it's something to do with the pandemic, right? I don't fucking know. But
doesn't help.
Yeah, it doesn't help. I just think green screens done to death now, overused. I think with the technology we have now, practical effects should have been out of this world at this stage. Like, how do we go from Jurassic Park, where they're making robotic dinosaurs, to having a green screen when they're just on an alien planet?
Yeah, you're right.
How do we go from Tatooine to Lamentus One in green screen? Tatooine's made in the 70s. How do we go from Tatooine being a real place north of Africa, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Morocco or somewhere. How do we go from there to Lamentus One that's like 90% green screen, and they're clearly walking around on a soundstage?
Yeah,
and that's just the little bits.
Walk
like
around on a really flat surface, you know, that kind of way. You're not you're not walking over terrain.
Yeah, exactly. You can't fake terrain.
No,
you know what I mean. Like, you know, it's just the way it is. Like, I just think, like, I love Marvel to death and shit, and I love the shit they put out there, and it's so ambitious what they're doing right now, and the way they're expanding their universe, and they're not waiting for anybody to catch up. It's like you're either with us or you're not, you know, that kind of way. I just think with the money they're putting in, I just think we could have more real sound stages, more detail put into the set design, and more depth put into the worlds they're creating. Because even though it's obviously going to be CGI heavy, especially the further you go into the universe, I still want to see more real sets. Because they have the money, Disney has the money, and I just think it will create a more real, more authentic world. Because you look at like I said Tatooine, but you look like a Mandalorian, they're clearly sets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of it is CGI, don't get me wrong, but they're like...
But even like the Mandalorian, though, sometimes the way they set up a bar.
Yeah,
something
exactly.
simple as that. I feel like it was love. They put a bit of love into it as well, like, you know.
You know what I mean? It's just one of those things just kind of feels more real. Like, I want to look at a world that looks lived in. Like, look at Blade Runner. Even though they use a lot of CGI, they have a lot of cool sets. And it feels lived in, especially the original. Like, I'm sure the second one leaned more heavily on CGI, like, in terms of how they went through the production.
Underrated movie. It wasn't as bad.
2049. I love that movie. Ryan Gosling's a great actor. But, like, I just think if you build sets, it creates a world that we feel like... It's like, look, Lord of the Rings. Hobbiton is still there. You know what I mean? These things live on forever. Like, look at Star Wars. These sets are still there. Like, a lot of this stuff still exists because it was built, and it was built to a high standard. And these things can be reused. So Marvel, like, I don't understand, like, they have to lean on green screen when they have making billions and billions and billions. Stop making your movies less authentic and less textured, and start making them more authentic and more textured, because your budgets are only going to keep getting bigger. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, so,
but that's it. Maybe like that they had so much ambition for this year.
Yeah,
that they just said, look, we'll said this is it. This is the workload. It's insane, because you have to understand that when we're talking about Kevin Feige, this is something that he worked on. This isn't all he worked on.
Yeah,
like he looked at this and goes, wow, 2021.
Yeah,
we're doing this. So I guess like you're saying, and I don't walk back my pacing comment at all, because I stand by it wholeheartedly. But like I said, that's what I'm viewing from the product. But maybe the product shouldn't have been released so close together. Maybe it should have been 2021 bleeding into 2022.
It's not. Yeah, I just think like maybe because WandaVision was going to be on Disney Plus, that maybe WandaVision should have been released during the pandemic.
Maybe
and maybe even Falcon Winter Soldier could have been released last year.
Yeah.
And like Marvel want to be careful and not risk oversaturation in the next 2 or 3 years and become shoddy a little bit in their final product.
I will have to say that when I talk about polished, this is probably the least polished
at times.
Yes, at times.
Like, it looks beautiful at times, but at times it looks rushed a little bit.
Yeah, like WandaVision had a lot of the magic of clever set design and neighborhood, not world building, because it was kind of built in a neighborhood building, but I don't mean that to sound any less impressive, because it was extremely impressive. But I agree. But I'm going to ask you then. We both kind of touched on that. What was the? You've already kind of, I suppose we've both kind of lodged a complaint, so I'm throwing you the curveball and asking you to tell me something. Not that, because we've touched on that. What was the worst of this? And unfortunately, you can't use the one thing that we both.
Like that would just, like, I would change that if I was the director. That, like, the scene and shit like that. But obviously, that's such a small thing because the story itself is very strong and shit. But maybe the worst for me would have been, I don't know. I think it was a little bit obvious, the twist. The big reveals were a little bit obvious.
There was a lot. There was some of it I seen coming. But there was a lot of it I didn't see coming. But eventually there was so many twists.
Yeah.
Where it was that you had like, we twisted our twist. You know?
It's like as soon as the gatekeeper
turns out the bad guy's the bad guy.
Exactly. It's like these overlords. No, there's actually this overlord.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just like the man behind the curtain and the man behind the man behind the curtain.
There was a man behind the man behind the curtain. Yeah. Who was revealed to be one of the men. Yeah. Of an infinitesimal amount of men behind the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, behind an infinite amount of curtains.
Behind an infinite amount of curtains.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
No, but like, if you said the worst, like, I love the story. I love the way they portrayed it with the soundtrack. Some of the sets, like, this show, looked beautiful at times. It's just some of the green screen looked a bit off to me. And that's just because maybe I was just seeing too many movies at this stage that I can tell when the green screen looks a little bit off.
No, I felt that as well. There was a scene where they're just walking and talking.
Yeah,
and it just felt off.
Said, you can't fake terrain, like
you can't fake again. Yeah, because you should have to, you should have to kick a rock. You should have one of you should for half a second be higher than the other person.
Like, if you're walking across a barren landscape, like, or a desert or something, there's no walking straight.
There's a slog.
It's this
as well.
Like, it's up and down constantly. Like, and I just think, like, for me, like I know I touched on the set design, but like shit, what did I say was my least favorite there?
I don't know. We were talking about the man behind
Yeah,
the
pretty much. Yeah,
like, a lot of stuff you've seen coming. That was basically
pretty much. Even for such a complicated storyline, a lot of the reveals to me seemed like they were kind of like earmarked along the way. Like you could tell, like before Loki was ever revealed to be the variant that they're after, that you could tell it was going to be another Loki. Like maybe because some of this shit kind of bleeded out through social media and stuff, and it was kind of in my subconscious.
Yeah.
And but you could tell that there was like a big bad behind it all. You could tell that the TVA was not what it seemed from the get go. Like, which is all these shady shady organizations, and any of these kind of stories are never what they seem. But like for a show that like banked so much on this complicated storyline, I just think some of the reveals I saw coming. But it didn't take away from any of the enjoyment. It's still an incredible show. And like, just I'll jump in on my best, and then I'll let you finish it up. But like, pretty much my best of the whole series was how the story didn't. I think I touched on it. Didn't try to dumb it down at all. It kept going at such an awesome pace. It started really quickly. It introduced all the big characters earlier on. Sylvie in episode 2, the TVA in episode 1, pretty much the opening sequence. We got to see where this Loki's going, how he's growing, and we get to see how this is going to bleed into. From obviously it's coming along in the timeline near WandaVision, and it's going to bleed into Multiverse of Madness. And I'm really interested with Loki being in a season 2, whether Loki will appear in Multiverse of Madness, will Kang the Conqueror appear in Multiverse of Madness, will WandaVision, which is something WandaVision, I keep calling Wanda. So will Scarlet Witch, will she appear in Multiverse of Madness as a villain? And what way it's going to go? It's just
this lended itself to in WandaVision and this Loki, and maybe perhaps more so Loki, has just lended itself into the expansion pack that is the next phase.
Exactly, it's phase 4 is up and ready now.
I'd probably say that
world building, I suppose.
To just kind of jump on that, I would say that the way that they've so beautifully they've created a new powerhouse in Wanda, in Scarlet Witch, and now they've kind of laid the groundwork for the kind of infinite amount of fun that they can have,
which will obviously end in its own Nexus event.
Exactly, yeah.
Avengers Nexus event.
Yeah, or I think Dark Avengers are kind of building up too. Yeah. You have a Agatha Harkness. You have a White Vision.
Yeah.
You have
but White Vision is in a grey area, whether or not
he's a grey area.
He's
but
contemplating his own existence right now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But then you have the other Captain America. You know,
Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker, yes,
U.S. agent now.
Yeah, U.S. agent. So I feel like it's built into a Dark Avengers as well. So I think this has lended itself very beautiful. I think it's basically the landing pad that Wanda's gone to Scarlet Witch and Stephen Strange and the more kind of characters that can expand it. Like the Hulk can't expand the universe. He's an extremely strong character, but he doesn't expand the universe. Stephen Strange does.
Yeah.
Wanda does. And now Loki inside it with the TVA, he 100% does.
Yeah.
Massive landing pad for phase 5.
Phase 5, do you think? Yeah.
Oh, massive landing pad.
It all depends.
And I think it did that. I think that really, really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
I think if I was to again, I feel like we've shit on this in a way that we actually both really loved it. And I suppose, it was just that's the
Marvel
format.
Make high quality stories.
Yeah, like that's the format. So we're looking for something to bitch and moan about.
Yeah.
But I suppose there was. It took me a little bit longer to get into this.
Yeah.
You
said it took you 3 episodes.
3 episodes, and I liked it. Don't get me wrong.
Run,
yeah, it's half the run.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I liked it, but I watched the 3 and then I didn't come back to it for a while.
Yeah.
And as in, I wasn't like with Wanda and stuff like that. I was a thirsty bitch for it. I was like, I knew when it was coming out, and I was watching it straight away.
Oh, well, I think it's because we've been deprived of Marvel for years.
Yeah, I think that's it. And like you said, there's a saturation as well, where and honestly, you get so spoiled.
We've seen WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Loki, and we have Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange coming out.
Yeah, we're not finished. We're not finished by any stretch of the imagination.
There's going to be 10 Marvel properties out between now and the end of 2022.
Yeah, so that just shows you how spectacular it actually is.
Yeah.
But it took me a little while to get into this, and then I did. But the other ones I found, like, I suppose a lot of them were quite as well. Were similar, like Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
that was kind of such a society kind of. It was very grounded.
It was very timely.
Yeah, very timely. Yeah, like very of its time, and there was a lot of conversations being had. And even though they're conversations, I'm not going to pretend I fully understand, but they're conversations that are going on around the world right now.
Yeah,
it wasn't complicated to lend yourself to that.
It's not time travel.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's fiction inside of non-fiction, and this was just fiction inside of fiction.
Yeah.
You can kind of apply it to things.
Yeah.
Like,
And at the same time, even with all this complicated storylines, at the crux of it all is it's teaching a god how to be human.
yeah,
Really,
that's a really
yeah.
nice way of putting it. Yeah. So I guess it took me a little bit longer to get into, and whether that's just on me or on them, I honestly don't know. But I honestly, after kind of already having a few swings at this, I think I just leave it at that because I actually thought it was a really, really excellent property.
Yeah, and so that's what your best is about. You kind of touch on what the world building.
The landing pad, man.
Yeah,
the landing pad is
potential,
spectacular.
yeah.
I mean, when you just see it branching off, like at this point, now that we know about we touched on all this: Guardians of the Galaxy, Thanos, Infinity Gauntlets, Infinity Stones, Asgard, etc., etc. And now we've seen the sacred timeline literally branch out completely. There is nothing that is off the table.
Yeah,
nothing.
And now, like, you can have what ifs till the fucking time.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, I know.
But they could go Rick and Morty on. Like, they could have. Like, I remember watching. God, what were they called? God, it's going to bug me because I couldn't think of it. But basically, it was a kind of some X-Men, some superheroes, and they go through and kind of fixed timelines. But there was a timelines where Kurt Connor's Lizardman he did set off that venom that mist, and then he turned everybody in the world. So you had like a Cyclops lizard and stuff like it. Just lends itself to everything. So it's them jumping through. But
and you think that's obviously why this was timed before What If? Because What If is going to be a play on this multiverse.
Why not?
Yeah.
And now everything they have finally created a universe where the words "why not" can apply to, because DC
What If should be called Why Not?
Yeah, exactly. And fucking like DC hasn't earned it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've introduced the goddess,
and it's so much time now. They could have earned it if you'd taken their time.
You've introduced the goddess, who was literally the thing that was designed to kill the god of war. That's how powerful this girl is.
Yeah.
This woman.
This Wonder Woman.
This Wonder Woman and stuff like that. And that's fine. And Superman and all that. They built that and they've earned that. But why not? Fuck no. Fuck no. They haven't got anywhere close to that.
Yeah.
They don't get a landing pad to just drop anything they want on. Marvel does.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it.
24 movies in, 3 TV series now, and like, you know, they're just going to go from strength to strength. But what would be your worst, or like, what would be your worst of the Loki experience before we get the fuck out of here now? Noel.
Like I suppose I was just saying that it took me a while to kind of get into it.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, and just to tread over ground, I'm not going to look for a new slide because I don't really have them. Yeah. And if I was, I would actually like do a deep dive and
I'm just a few drinks in, I forgot.
Yeah, exactly. No, again, it was just it could have been a bit more polished. But excellent property. Enjoy the fuck out of it. And if you stayed with us, I enjoy the fuck out of you too.
Kind of dirty. Yeah, but excuse me. So Noel, if you have anything more to say about Loki, awesome TV series Loki from Marvel and Disney Plus?
No, great to see. Tom Hiddleston is absolutely fantastic, and you know, I know he didn't get the Thor job, and
it's working out.
It's working out okay for him. But he's a quality actor. He has the charisma and the charm, and he's big, strong built, good looking dude, and being good looking in Hollywood never hurts, but he actually does have some of the other things that you need to have to
He's so charming that Marvel decided to make him a former genocidal maniac into this
exactly. He's just exactly, and just I'm delighted for him.
Yeah,
and
it's great to see when an actor is so proficient in a role that the role itself expands because of it.
Yeah, and congratulations to Jonathan Majors. I mean, God, I didn't know who you were, sir. And now you're bigger than fucking Thanos. Well done. Fucking done.
Like, not only bigger than Thanos, but there's like an infinite amount of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, anyway,
we'll get the fuck out
of here.
Right, before we go, right, I just want to give a shout out. Last time we had a few drinks in us, so I kind of fucked up the.
Unlike this time.
Yeah, it's what we do here. We kind of messed up the first time, and then we have a few more beers, and then hope we do the second time better. But I want to give a shout out to my man Dylan C. We appeared on his podcast Stardom, STARRD with a capital DUMB. You find it on Spotify. You also host the Singed Eye Sockets podcast, which is something.
It's a nice descent into madness with a guy with a very raw sense of humor. A very hard man to shock, and we did try.
Yeah,
and we enjoyed it.
And we want to thank him a lot for having us on, making our American debut, which is kind of cool. And we want
bigger than the Beatles.
Yeah, and before we get the fuck out of here, I want to say a big thank you as well to Carl the Conqueror for putting this fucking show together.
I like that.
That's how I roll. It's all in the moment. And so before we get the fuck out of here, nice work, Carl, and any of the magic shit comes from him. And this is Dark Side of the Moon. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host, Noel. Do you want to say it?
Yeah, I'll say it for once. And I'm your host, Noel Tantui.
And this was Loki, and we'll be back to some cool shit in the near future. See you next time, folks.
Thank you.